One of the most shocking and gruesome murder cases spanning decades came to a close today. Rex Heuermann changed his plea to guilty this morning to killing 7 women on New York's Long Island between 1993 and 2011. The string of murders came to be known as the Gilgo Beach serial killings. The 62-year-old also admitted to killing an 8th victim, but he will not face charges for her murder as part of his plea deal. CBS News correspondent Bradley Blackburn has the story.
Rex Heuermann stood before a judge on Long Island Wednesday and admitted he is a serial killer.
Are you pleading guilty voluntarily and of your own free will?
Yes.
He pleaded guilty to murdering 7 women near Gilgo Beach and admitted to intentionally causing the death of an 8th. The plea agreement marks a major reversal in the case.
Rex, did you do it?
Heuermann had maintained his innocence since his arrest in 2023, despite a mountain of evidence against him.
This case is over from our standpoint. You heard the prosecutor indicate there will be no further prosecutions in exchange for his plea of guilty.
Between 2010 and 2011, investigators discovered a total of 11 sets of human remains near Gilgo Beach, mostly belonging to sex workers. Authorities linked the former New York architect to the crimes more than a decade later through his vehicle, DNA from a pizza box, and burner phones he used to arrange his meetings.
There are still, bodies on that beach. There are still bodies in Suffolk County. There's no rest for the weary.
In a packed courthouse Wednesday, Heuermann admitted to strangling the women and dumping their bodies. Their relatives were there in court.
On behalf of my mother, I accept this plea.
I'm thankful that we came to a conclusion that brought peace to everybody.
Heuermann's now ex-wife and daughter, who maintained they had no knowledge of his crimes, were also in the courtroom.
My thoughts and prayers are with the victims and their families. Their loss is immeasurable, and the focus should be on them at this time.
Heuermann was scheduled to stand trial in September. He now faces sentencing in June and is expected to spend the rest of his life behind bars. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News, New York.
CBS News legal contributor Caroline Polisi joins us now. Caroline, in terms of cases, this one is just horrific. So what more are we learning about why Heuermann ultimately decided to change his plea?
Yeah, just a horrific ending to just a decades-long saga, Lindsay. But his lawyer made a statement after he changed his plea from not guilty to guilty on all of those 7 counts, and then admitted to an additional murder, noting that it was his decision and his decision only, that he came to a point in the case where he really didn't want to put the victims' families through a long and arduous trial. He also wanted to save his family the sort of torture of going through a trial. But I really think it likely had more to do with the fact that, that the defense lost some huge motions, not the least of which was a motion to not let the prosecution bring in this really damning DNA evidence. And once they lost that, Lindsay, I think the writing was on the wall. It was clear that he was not going to win this case.
Can you tell us more about the damning DNA evidence, and then what happens with these other cases? Because his lawyer is saying this is it. So do those ascend? Nobody faces justice, or I guess he's facing justice for these 7.
Yeah, so the second part first. So part of the plea bargain, everybody's wondering, why did he change his plea? This man is never seeing the light of day. That's not from behind bars. So there's no chance that he was going to make a plea deal to get some sentence in which he could ever get out of prison. That's just not something that prosecutors would give in this type of case, especially given the evidence that they have. But you'll know he pleaded guilty to those 7 indicted crimes, the murders, 3 first-degree murders and 4 second-degree murders. And then he merely admitted to the 8th. He hasn't been indicted on the 8th. And as part of that bargain, prosecutors noted that they wouldn't further prosecute those 7 murders, bring any additional charges regarding those 7 murders. And then they're not going to bring this 8th charge. So sort of a clean break, hoping that this really can come to a close. And then as far as the DNA evidence, everybody now knows there was decades. It took decades to get this guy, but they finally got a discarded pizza crust in New York City that eventually linked him to these murders.
Was that able then to be linked to some of the hairs that were found on some of the victims' remains?
That's exactly right. And part of why it was so controversial is that it was a really new cutting edge DNA technology that they used to connect it to those hair strands. And the defense said this is not scientifically, viable. So they wanted to keep it out, but the judge said no, it's proven scientifically sound, and we're letting it in. But yeah, it really skyrocketed, snowballed. Really, he was, arrested initially for several of the murders, and thereafter, more and more evidence came in to get to this number 7.
Caroline Polisi, thank you.